Hello and welcome back to another video. We've got another BuJo Mini here for you. So for this one, I read and listened to the first book in the Vampire Diaries series, in the first series, because I found out that there's 3 different series in that universe. And I listened to the OG, the first book, The Awakening, and I have thoughts, especially as a fan of the show, having watched the show and seeing how the changes were made and things that happened. I have a lot of opinions on things I like that the book did and things that I like that the show did better. I'm not going to go into all of them, just going to touch on a few. My biggest thing that I really liked that the book did was how active Elena was. She was out doing things. It was mostly teenage, grievance related things, but she was doing stuff. She was engaging in things and investigating stuff, and she I think in the show, because something else that was different in the book than the show. In the book, Elena's parents had passed away years and years ago, whereas in the show it had just happened. So she's still grieving, presently in the show. It's a fresh loss that's happened, whereas in the book it's happened a while ago and she's had time to kind of reconcile it. And even though she's still grieving and she still misses her parents, it's not as fresh, and she's not overcome constantly. It is still present in the book and in the story, her feelings about missing her parents, but again, it's not super fresh. I like how in the show they made it it just happened recently, and then you find out later in the show that of why it happened, that Stefan was there, and there's all these things where as it overall the show made everything more interconnected, whereas in the book stuff was all separated. Stefan had never been to Mystic Falls before. It's not even called Mystic Falls in the book, it's called Fells Church. Stefan and Catherine, none of them had ever been there before. Damon isn't even in the first book, really. He shows up at the end of the book. There's maybe one scene, or maybe, he shows up 3 times. Once he's just a figure in the distance. The second time he has a short conversation with Elena. She doesn't know who he is, and then he shows up at the end and kidnaps Stefan. And he's just there to cause havoc, but he's not really a character in the book. You just find out that all the bad stuff that's been happening, he's behind it. Something else that I really liked about that the book did, because the first book is mostly just set up for this supernatural world and introducing these characters and everything. Most of the drama that happens in the book is centered around high school drama. It's not really supernatural drama. There is a subplot where people are being attacked, and as the reader it's a vampire, but it's not really something that is a great threat to the characters, because it's just that's something that's happening in the news. It doesn't really affect any of them until the end of the book, when Stefan is accused of being a serial killer. But even though most of the things that are happening in the book are with Elena are high school type drama, she's competing with Caroline because they both want to be the popular it girl. They're competing for Stefan's affections, and those types of things. It's still interesting because you do have the supernatural elements, whereas the reader, you kind of know when stuff is happening that it is vampires, and then you're getting a lot of information from Stefan's backstory, which is completely different because again, they'd never been to Mystic Falls, Fells Church before. The whole backstory with him and Damon and Catherine, and then in their love triangle and getting turned into vampires, that all happened centuries prior, when they were in Italy during like the Renaissance era. Like Catherine, she was also a new vampire. It was just, all the character dynamics are so different because the characters are very different, and I enjoyed seeing that like difference in the characters. There is some of it that translates into the show, but there is some things that I think the show lost, and I would have liked to see be represented in the show. But yeah, I enjoyed it. I listened to the audiobook and I read the ebook. I would go back and forth, and I think I am gonna do the second one. But yeah, thanks so much for watching. Bye.